12 News podcast segment. The Hebrews of Timbuktu, tracing the lost tribes in West Africa. In the 1800s, Dr. George Moore, a respected scholar, clergyman, and historian, made a startling observation. He wrote that there are multitudes of Jews in every variety of condition in the north of Africa, but even more of the Hebrew race far within the interior, around Timbuktu, Lake Tsad, and further south. Today on 12 News, we examine what he meant, and why this statement still shakes the foundations of mainstream history. Because if Moore is correct, then West Africa wasn't merely a land of isolated tribes. It was a major refuge and stronghold of ancient Israelites. Section 1. The Forgotten Testimony of Dr. George Moore. Dr. Moore wasn't an amateur theorist. He was a scholar who spent decades compiling historical, linguistic, and cultural data. And in his research, he noted something uncomfortable. The Ga and other Negro tribes have numerous well-marked Jewish characters in their religious observances. In the 1800s, before political rewrites and modern sensitivities, scholars openly recorded what they witnessed. A West African tribes keeping ritual purity laws, observing forms of Sabbath rest, practicing circumcision on the 8th day, maintaining Levitical-style dietary customs, using Judaic names, symbols, and rites. Moore emphasized that this wasn't coincidence. It was identity. Section 2. Timbuktu, a Hebrew center in Africa. Moore pointed to specific regions. A Timbuktu, a Lake Tsad, Lake Chad, a Ga/Ga people of Ghana, areas stretching into the Sahel and Sahara. These weren't random. These regions were major trade, education, and migration hubs for centuries. Moore suggests that these Jewish traits did not originate from converts or passing merchants, but from lineages. Unless we suppose that the Hebrews were derived from the interior of Africa, we must suppose that the Hebrews have penetrated there, and thence diffused the elements of civilization. In other words, either the Hebrews came from Africa originally, or they fled into Africa in large numbers. And according to the evidence, it was the second one. Section 3. The Exodus into Africa after 70 AD. Moore's writings match Josephus, the Universal History of 1760, Lady Herbert, and multiple 18th to 19th century historians. After the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD, millions of Israelites fled Roman persecution. Where did they go? Egypt, Abyssinia, Ethiopia, the Nile Valley, the Sahara trade routes, down into the Niger region, deep into West Africa. By Moore's era, the descendants of these refugees were still visible. He said the southern regions contained even more of the Hebrew race than North Africa. This is astonishing because West Africa is the region where the trans-Saharan slave raids occurred, the transatlantic slave trade operated, tribes like the Akan, Igbo, Yoruba, Ga, Ashanti, Fulani resided, and many of these tribes have long claimed descent from ancient Hebrews. Section 4. Hebrew customs among West African tribes. Moore and his contemporaries documented practices that mirrored Torah laws, purification rituals before prayer, scapegoat ceremonies, cities of refuge customs, a priestly garments and ephod-style dress, blowing of horns during festivals, ark-style sacred chests among Igbo and Ashanti. He noted that West African Judaism was not foreign. It was inherited. Well-marked Jewish characters, the Hebrew race in the interior, traces of their connection with the lost tribes. These were not small statements. These were direct claims from a 19th century academic documenting what he witnessed. Section 5. Why this matters, the Hebrew Israelite perspective. For Hebrew Israelites today, Moore's testimony is not surprising. It is confirmation. Because Scripture itself predicted this movement. Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. Luke 21 verse 24. They shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations. And Moore's findings match exactly the historical pattern. Israelites flee Jerusalem, enter Africa, migrate across the continent, establish communities later captured in slave trades. This is why many Hebrew Israelites assert the descendants of the 12 tribes are found today among the scattered sons and daughters of Africa and the diaspora. Moore unknowingly strengthens this belief. Section 6. Revisiting West Africa with new eyes. If Moore is right, then West Africa must be re-examined, not as a primitive region, but as a center of Hebrew migration, a refuge after Roman destruction, a home of tribes preserving ancient practices, a key chapter in the survival of biblical Israel. This reframes the origins of certain African traditions, ancient migration routes, identity within the African diaspora, the cultural roots of millions of enslaved Africans, the question of the lost tribes. This has been 12 News, where truth meets history. Today we looked at the testimony of Dr. George Moore, a 19th century scholar whose writings reveal that the Hebrews did not disappear. They migrated. They survived. They left footprints across West Africa, and their descendants still walk among us today. If this message spoke to you, share and subscribe to 12 News on YouTube. The truth was never lost, only hidden, waiting to be found.